Hi guys, this is Michael from the Boardgames Chronicle. Today I have a pleasure to present to you the second material in which I'm recommending great ideas for Christmas gifts, Christmas presents. About 2 weeks ago I published both the blog article and also a short video with my top Wargames suggestions, which were focusing purely on 2024 releases. So I was looking simply on the new, fresh titles. In my second part, in my second material, I'm going to focus on so-called all-time classics. And while I will be discussing some individual titles, I will mainly focus on the game series. These are definitely the titles with which you will never go wrong. They have been on the market several years or even several tens of years. They are usually published by renowned companies, and the authors, the designers are also very well known. You will see the titles from Volker Runke, Mark Herman, or other great creators of the war games in this video. Of course, this video will be also having some links to my other materials which I created for many of those titles, be it some how to play, teach and play, unboxing, strategy tips. I will also link some of the reviews of the games, and what will be probably the easiest way for you to navigate, also the link to the article version of this material. If you have any suggestions what can be added to that type of videos, feel free to simply use the comments below this material, below this video. I don't want this to be too difficult to navigate, so you will also have possibility to jump between all the sections of this video. If you go down below the video, you have the links in the table of contents to particular parts of this. This is, let's say, second part of my Christmas tradition. First is creating this year proposals of the gifts. The second is exactly what you are seeing now. So seeing the all-time classics. The third part of the tradition you can find on my blog and YouTube channel around the actual Christmas on the 24th of December, where I will be doing the regular every year Christmas quiz, in which you will be trying to guess what war games I put on the greetings card. It will be from the pieces created from various titles I really like and appreciate. So stay tuned, it will come soon. Not to prolong too much, I would like to jump now to my proposals, and there will be 3 of them, 3 great series. I will talk a little bit about them and also about some prominent titles in those series. So let's start. Okay, let us start with Levian Campaign. Levian Campaign is definitely quite quickly becoming one of the fastest developing GMT game series. Of course, this is not a coincidence, and to large extent thanks to Volker Runke. He not only designed a great system and initial titles in this, but also built a group of devoted designers, developers, and simply enthusiasts, further expanding the genre. You can see the similar approach as it was with the coin counter insurgency games, when the great concept which came from him was further developed by the fans and enthusiasts, and we see a very similar approach here. This series, the Levian Campaign, presents the medieval warfare at the operational level, but in the many interesting settings. There are currently 4 titles published and many more who are in the pipeline. Some of them closer, some of them farther. It started from the Nevsky, which was set in the 13th century Baltic frontier between the Russia and the Teutons. Volume 2 was focusing on Spain. It was Almoravid, which took us to 11th century Spain and Reconquista conflict. The third volume was in Italy, in 13th century Tuscany, and it was Inferno. The fourth and the last so far published, part of the series is Plantagenet. It's of course War of the Roses in the, if I'm not mistaken, 15th century England. The next to be published pretty soon is Seljuk, so this will be the Eastern Roman battles, wars with the Seljuk Turks, and then we have a lot of additional titles in the pipeline. What all of them have in common? There are some similar core system, let's say mechanics, simulating this medieval levy of armies by individual great lords and lesser vassals who needs to equip those armies with transport like carts and other stuff like mules with special capabilities such as, for example, crossbowmen, trebuchet or stonecutters, to name a few. During each campaign, because the game in essence is split into the levy phase, where you build those armies, equip them, staff them with the proper tools, you have also the second part, the campaign, in which you form a stack of command cards to present the order that the lords will march, forage, siege, and so on and so forth. What is very key and fundamental in those games is logistics. As provender, so food and other stuff needed for the armies must be gathered and moved, not only gathered but also moved to feed the troops in the field, or of course suffer some drawbacks or even disasters. What I really like is that each volume in the series brings its own specifics, specialities, be it different geographic, I already told you how we moved through the whole Europe, cultural, political settings, also the scale, more or less operational, tactical or strategical. So what do we have? Nevsky was the first game in the series, was an intro to it, a first step in the system. Unfortunately, I had not a pleasure to play it, but I'm already on the P500 GMT reprint for the second edition. Almoravid brings, which I played extensively, brings to the core mechanics so-called Taifa politics, because it focuses on the attack of a Christian kingdom on the those Muslim taifas in Spain, and then the intervention of African Muslims, and there are some specific political settings which are played here. Inferno, the third part of the series, is less dependent on logistics, much better roads, much better possibility to get the supply, provender. But there's a very cool mechanics of treachery, and the both lords, but also the locales, so the towns, cities, changing the allegiance. The fourth one, which I believe I played mostly, Plantagenet, I believe already like 20 plays of this game. It's mainly focusing on this War of the Roses, where there was not so many storms and sieges. Those things are removed from the gameplay, but you have a very cool influence, mechanics, which translates directly into victory points. And this game, I believe, is pretty deadly for the lords also. Can be played as a long campaign of the 3 Wars of the Roses. And so far, really gives me a lot of pleasure, because it's a bit lighter, I would say, than the previous 3 titles. What I like about this system and game series, and why I'm recommending this, in each and every volume you will have many scenarios, from the small to the very large and long ones. So it allows you for the gradual, step into the system. you have fabulous components. I know GMT creates very nice components, but this is simply fabulous with all these wooden pieces, maps, and counters. I really like the command cards mechanics because you plan the campaign at the beginning of a season and then play them one by one, and sometimes the order might not be so good because the situation on the map changes. But sorry, you already have given the orders and they have to be executed. This is very suitable for the solo play. There is a way to do it with the cards and planning them, and then just simply playing one turn per each lord, per each side, to the best of your abilities. And what is really important, it underlines the logistic aspect of warfare, so much neglected in many of our titles. So guys, a great series from Volker Runke, Levin campaign. Choose what fits you best, whether it's Nevsky, Almoravid, Inferno or Plantagenet, or maybe try to support some of the new titles coming like Seljuk, Zizka, Henry, and so on and so forth. Definitely highly recommended. Okay guys, let us talk now about great battles of history. I believe most of the Wargamers have heard about this series. Yeah, this is a true classic, which is still fresh and getting new titles or new reprints ongoingly. This is the name of a series of the Wargames, mainly on the tactical level, designed by Mark Herman and Richard Berg, and they are being published and republished by GMT Games. This is, as I said, the tactical level, with units representing around hundreds of men and turns representing about 20 minutes. And the scenarios covers battles from summertime, so like 2000 years before Christ, up to the 30 years war battles in Europe, Africa, the Middle East, Japan. So it spans all the continents. So you have a span of time like 3000 years and span of geography like almost half of the world. What are the key, let's say, fundamental mechanics of the game, characteristics of this system? First of all, you have a troops activation and sequence based on general ratings. Each of the general has a specific initiative, and this initiative system with possibility for tramping between the generals, with possibility for momentum of a general, so a couple of activations, gives a very nice flow of the game because there is no usual I go, you go. It's much more subtle, and it's up to you to risk whether you would like, try to trump or do some other stuff. The battle resolution is based on unit types, the direction of attack, the size of the unit, the weapon system which the unit is using, and so on and so forth. There is no kind of a breakthrough mechanics here. It's like, you have a couple of phases of the battle, and each of those phases is, played in each of the, engagements at the same time. And then the second phase, third phase, collapse, and so on, pursuit. So this takes into account those engagements happening simultaneously. Another thing which is important is that cohesion and troops quality. These are a decisive metrics of soldiers' experience and value in battle. Troop quality means simply how much punishment the unit can take before it collapses. Remember, the units almost always were first routing before they were destroyed. Of course, you can destroy almost some of the units to zero, but it was very, very rare. The morale was being broken much quicker than you could destroy the units entirely. And it's really nicely showing this. The rout, rally, and depletion aspects allow the broken units for return to fight. And, maybe not so effective, but there's a possibility to bring them back here. And usually the score of a particular battle is decided by the percentage of the army you manage to rout and get off the map. because sometimes you can still recover routing units. At this moment in time, if I'm not mistaken, the series have over 15 volumes. I will only mention a couple of them which I like and I can personally recommend. I would start with the Great Battles of Alexander, the first volume in the series, showing like how the Macedonian, type of war and type of combined arms was actually crashing first through Greece, then through the Persians in Granicus, Issus, Gaugamela, then also when fighting with the Indians and so on. A really great and fantastic volume. It was reprinted after the initial publication in 1990s. It was reprinted like in 2015, I believe. It still should be available. The second volume, SPQR, so actually the volume about the Republican Rome, focuses on the battles, of course, with a Carthage. So Canaan, Zama, and other important battles, with the Punic leaders. But it also shows the Pyrrhic victories, so Heraclea, Ausculum, and there is a very painful part connected to the Second Punic War, like Trebia and other battles with Hannibal. It really introduces the legion system and the specifics of how the Roman Republic legions were fighting. The third volume, which I can recommend, and so far is probably one of my favorite, is Cataphract. Cataphract portrays the development of the art of war during the early Byzantine Empire. So this was Emperor Justinian and its great general Belisarius and Narses. Why I like it so much? Because the battles here tend to be much smaller than in the previous volumes, like Alexander or SPQR. They are quicker that way, not so many counters, and also slightly different, tactics and strategies. The cavalry is much more potent, the bow is much more potent, and you play it is completely different. The fourth recommendation in the series which I can make is Great Battles of Julius Caesar, Deluxe Edition, quite recently published by GMT. It actually combines two volumes which were published in 1990s, Caesar the Civil Wars and Caesar Conquest of Gaul. It's beautifully published. You have a lot of maps, like 20 scenarios, all the legions, and you have all the factions Caesar was fighting with in Gaul, but you can also replay the Pompey versus Caesar war through the series of battles those two great generals were fighting for the dominance of Rome. Brilliantly published and really enjoyable. Again, you have some of the smaller scenarios here also available. What I like in this system, because you might ask, okay, you are recommending this game, but what do you really like here? First of all, each scenario clearly shows the historical balance of the forces, but you can tweak it also in a way so it is, more competitive. There are smaller scenarios, medium-sized scenarios, and very large scenarios. So you can choose whatever you need. I like how the components look like, the beautiful maps, the beautiful counters, and simply those tweaks between the volumes in the series, because of course the strategy and tactics was changing during the time. I also like, and this is not exclusive, of course, to Great Battles of History, but I really like the rule books written by Mark Herman. I like the historical notes, I like the designer notes, I like the explanations, I like a bit of humor Mark is using there, and it's really a pleasure to familiarize with this. If you have never tried Great Battles of History, I strongly recommend jump for this. If you'd like to start with something smaller, less complex, you can choose Cataphract, or maybe you can choose Hoplite. It's being, put on P500 recently. If you'd like to jump immediately into something larger, maybe you can, consider Great Battles of Julius Caesar Deluxe Edition. Definitely, this would be a great, perfect Christmas present. Highly recommend. Let us jump to my third and final recommendation. I'm sure you will not be surprised. My list of recommendations ends with a Commands and Colors series, set of games I played, play, and will be playing extensively and in all flavors. Simply, this is one of the systems which I believe is almost perfect, and I simply love it. The system by design is of course not overly complex, but so vast and interesting that it will serve all the tastes. And this is something which I can fully back with my own experience. We of course have here the deck of command cards that drive a movement while creating kind of a fog of war, and the battle dice that will resolve combat quickly and efficiently, depending on the volume in the series, with slightly different symbols on it. We have really nicely stylized battlefield scenarios with the maps, emphasizing the importance of the terrain features and highlighting the historical deployment of the forces. And of course, this is all done in the scale with the game system. Now, you can play individual scenarios. There's hundreds of them. You can play campaigns. There are both fan-made campaigns, but there are also official campaigns in those volumes. You can play regular size scenarios. You can play Overlord, Breakthrough, or even larger formats like La Grande Battles or D-Day Landings. Yeah. You can move as far back in time as ancient Greece, so CC Ancients will provide this, like 600-700 BC. Or you can move as close to our times as World War II, which is presented by Memoir 44. During one evening, depending on the size of a scenario you choose, it is easily possible to play 2-3 sessions, 2-3 games with your opponents. Sometimes important if you would like to switch the sides and compare scores with your colleague, because the scenarios oftentimes reflect the historical deployment and are not artificially, balanced, which I don't like to see. So they represent the actual situations. You can always find some of those titles available, definitely. GMT and other companies are issuing new titles, maybe not so often as I wished to, and recently we got the Crusaders expansion to Medieval, and many companies are doing the reprints, and reprints are really popular. Now, what I would recommend in this series, so guys, I can talk for hours, so I will try to be concise and precise. I created the separate material about my favorite Commands and Colors games, so I most probably also link it here. But let me start maybe from the beginning. If you'd like to start with the Commands Color game, where to start? Most probably the answer will be, it depends on which part of the historical period you like. And you could choose based on this a proper title from the plethora of existing. If you don't have any specific, period in mind, I would of course recommend to go on with Commands Colors Ancients. So the game, which definitely is so vast with so many expansions that you will be able to find something interesting for you. This game has only one deck of cards, has base game and 6 expansions. Regarding the availability of expansions and the base game, it depends and varies from the year to year. You can find a lot of those secondhand or in some of the retail shops. There are also some of the titles available at this moment in time on GMT page, but I'm not sure if the whole set is available there. Anyhow, I strongly suggest looking into this because this game is a very good entry point to the whole system. It's not so much focused on the terrain, much more on the battle formation, on keeping the line, and proper usage of the cards and tactics on the map. If you'd like to start the journey with Commands and Colors, the second good title which I can recommend is Commands, Colors, Samurai Battles. Couple of reasons. First of all, in one box you are getting like 40 scenarios. A really huge pack of a great content. The map and the blocks are astonishingly beautiful. I have a feeling this is probably the most beautiful from all the Commands Colors games, at least to my taste. It's beautiful pastel colors on the maps and on the terrain tiles. This is not overly complex, although it has already 2 decks of cards, and you will have this honor mechanic, which gives you, the points, honor and fortune you can use later on this second deck of cards. It's a very brutal game. The leaders, lead from the front and can very easily become a casualty. As I said, with 40 scenarios, you would have plenty of possibility to play this game for a long time, and it's in one box, so it might be great entry point. If you would like to jump to something a little bit more complex, by complex I'm not saying complicated, because in essence this is rather a light war game, I would like to recommend another 2 titles. First of all, I would like to recommend the Commands Colors Medieval with the most fresh current Crusaders expansion. When I'm shooting this material, my Crusaders expansion is en route to me, so I should have it pretty soon. The medieval part of the game, the base game, focuses on the wars between the Roman Byzantine Empire and the Sassanids, and the Crusaders, of course, will focus on the Crusades, mainly, if I'm not mistaken, First and Second Crusade. This is a bit more complex game because you have inspired actions, and with the expansion you have many more types of units, especially heavy units, and you would have many more factions with special abilities, but it's all creating very cool and interesting, theme and various tactics and strategies. And it's pretty fresh, especially the expansion. The second game, which I could not skip as the more complex end of the spectrum of Commands Colors games, is of course Commands Colors Napoleonics. All fans of a Napoleonic warfare can find really great titles here. Again, like with the Commands Colors Ancients, you have base game and many expansions. However, again, there is a variable, availability of them. Although, thanks to the recent reprint of GMT, I believe half a year ago or 9 months ago, it should be much better available at the market. So I believe this would be a really good game if you are more into a bit more modern warfare in the Napoleonic era. Of course, these are only 4 recommendations: Ancients and Samurai Battles for beginning, and for more complex and digging deeper, the Medieval with the Crusaders expansion or Napoleonics. We have, of course, other titles in the series. We have Memur with tons of expansion. We have classical Battle Cry. We have Battle Lore, which is Commands Colors adjacent, which you can also play. We have Red Alert, which unfortunately is not being continued, and so on and so forth. You have a Great War, which is also unfortunately not continued. I believe the system has a lot of potential. Its author has tons of scenarios and actual solutions to the game, which are not yet published by the company. So it's endless, let's say, source of new expansions, new titles. The only thing which unfortunately is not happening are the companies publishing this more often. This is something probably which all of us Commands Colors fans are really waiting for. So this will be the third recommendation. Commands Colors, great, simply fantastic series. So vast, so deep, so wide that everybody can find something for themselves. Highly recommended. Okay, guys, that's all for today. These were my 3 suggestions for the Christmas presents. As far as the all-time classics are concerned, I focused on 3 series: Levien campaign by Volker Runke, Great Battles of History by Mark Herman and Richard Berg, and Commands Colors by Richard Borg. I hope that you find them, as a kind of inspiration. I can tell you guys, I'm making this, video and material every year, and when I'm going to this all-time classics all the time, I'm thinking, okay, which series I should recommend this year? Last year I recommended this one, maybe this year something new. And usually this is what I'm doing, although some of the titles like Commands and Colors are always staying on my list, sorry to say this. And every year, I'm glad to say this, I can propose something new, something fresh. If you go with those series and choose any of those titles in those series, you would definitely have a lot of fun. And yeah, it can be present for you or maybe for your colleagues whom you would like to bring into the wargaming hobby. Definitely, you will not go wrong if you go for any of those proposals here. And that's all for today. I will not prolong it any longer. I wish you a really great and joyful Merry Christmas with your beloved ones, but also with your hobby. This is this time of the year when you have a bit more time to play the games. So choose whatever seems right for you and best for you, and hopefully you will get a lot of fantastic Christmas presents. Thank you very much for watching and being with me. Kindly give thumbs up if you like this material. Also share your ideas and recommendations for the Christmas gifts, and thank you. See you in another material. That's all for today. Bye.